You have been told the observer effect is the secret, but awareness alone does not create transformation because true change requires a deeper quantum shift. Right now you are carrying untapped potential in your breath, your heart, your cells, your emotions, and your patterns. And when you learn to activate these dimensions in sequence, your entire reality reorganizes itself with precision and stability. In this transmission, we will unlock 5 powerful shifts that rewire neural focus, align your brain and heart into coherence, direct thought into embodied action, recalibrate your biofield through emotional mastery, and integrate lasting stability by repeating aligned patterns daily. Each shift is a practical tool grounded in neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum principles, designed to expand your consciousness and elevate your frequency in real time. If you are ready to embody this hidden quantum shift, subscribe now and step into your next level of awakened creation. Shift 1. Activate neural focus through conscious breath and present awareness. The observer effect isn't the key. This hidden quantum shift isn't here. In Shift 1, we activate neural focus through conscious breath and present awareness as the first measurable doorway into a living quantum field of possibility. Listen closely, because I speak from years of focused practice with minds that needed rewiring and bodies that needed reorientation, and what I have learned is simple and clinical and true. Attention sculpts neural pathways and breath sculpts autonomic tone, and together they create an operating system for intentional change. Albert Einstein said reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Albert Einstein, and what that points to is not mysticism but the practical fact that perception constructs experience, which then biological systems embody. Nikola Tesla told us to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla. And when you combine that with modern neuroscience, you get a clear toolset. Use breath to downshift sympathetic arousal, raise vagal tone, and anchor the prefrontal cortex into present moment processing so that your mind stops reacting on autopilot and choosing from coherence. From my work, this is not theoretical, it is observable. People who practice a structured breath and present attention protocol for a week report clearer decisions, reduced reactivity, and a felt sense of inner electricity that aligns with measurable markers like steadier pulse and deeper cognitive focus. Carl Jung reminded us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. And this first shift is the bridge. Conscious breath brings unconscious patterns into the light of awareness so you can rewire them. Bruce Lipton's work in Epigenetics underscores the same truth when he notes, genes are not destiny. Bruce Lipton, which means that the way you hold attention and the emotional context you create through breath literally changes which genetic programs express and which remain dormant. Joe Dispenza distilled a usable kernel when he said, where attention goes, energy flows. Joe Dispenza. And that is the operative law you will practice right now in a way that is repeatable, measurable, and transmutation. Here is the exact activation I offer, and I coach people through this step by step. Find a posture that is upright and relaxed. Place one hand gently on your belly and one hand on your heart. Breathe in through the nose for a steady count of 4. Hold for a count of 2 and exhale through the nose for a count of 6. Repeat this cycle for 5 full minutes, while keeping your attention anchored to the sensation of breath at the lower ribs. This specific timing engages parasympathetic regulation, increases heart rate variability, and creates an inaural window for prefrontal integration. While breathe, track one single internal cue, such as the word here, or the sensation of air entering and leaving. So your attention is specific, not diffuse. Specificity trains the neural spotlight, and within days you will notice longer spans of non-distracted attention, which is the baseline condition required for conscious choice. During practice, bring conscious awareness to the felt tone in your chest and to the subtle temperature change at your nostrils, and if intrusive thoughts arise, label them briefly as thought and return without judgment to breath and body. This labeling recruits the dorsal prefrontal cortex and weakens automatic limbic firing, so old emotional loops begin to shrink. For measurable progress, use a simple metric: track how many uninterrupted minutes of breath-centered focus you achieve each session, and aim to increase that time by 30 seconds every 2 days. This quantifies neural endurance and becomes real evidence of rewiring. Integrate a very short cognitive anchor after the breath cycle by stating aloud one precise intention in present tense. For example, I choose clarity now, or I anchor calm focus now. Saying this phrase synchronizes language circuits with autonomic state and encodes the intention into procedural memory, which supports embodied action. Repeat this full sequence morning and evening for 2 weeks, and you will notice tangible shifts in emotional reactivity, memory retrieval, and creative access. Because neuroplastic change is incremental, cumulative, and catalyzed by repeated attention paired with physiological modulation. My personal observation after guiding hundreds of people is that the breath becomes the master key when paired with present awareness. Because breath is the only autonomic function you can willfully manipulate to change autonomic tone, and when you do this with consistent attention you create a new baseline, your system to return to under stress. Scientifically this is simple. You increase vagal afferent signaling to the brainstem, enhance prefrontal inhibition of the amygdala, and guide thalamocortical loops into patterns that favor deliberate response over reflexive reaction. Spiritually this is equal parts practice and revelation, because as you steady attention you begin to inhabit a field where possibility is palpable and choices feel less like effort and more like resonance. Practically speaking, if you have 5 minutes between tasks, use them intentionally instead of scrolling, and perform a single breath cycle of the protocol, and you will notice your decision-making after the pause is clearer and less emotionally loaded. If you want depth, do the full 5-minute practice twice daily and take a 3-minute micro-practice before any conversation or performance to anchor presence into the interaction. Track your results qualitatively with a simple journal line after practice, noting one shift in mood, one cognitive clarity, and one action you took differently, and track physiologically if you have access to a simple heart rate monitor. Compare resting pulse and heart rate variability before the 2-week block and after to observe objective markers of autonomic change. I will not sell you a miracle or a shortcut, because my work respects the biology of change and honors the incremental nature of transformation. But I will give you tools that produce measurable results when applied with discipline and presence. From my vantage point, the observer effect focus on observation alone is incomplete, because observation without embodied regulatory skill simply labels patterns, but does not change the organism that experiences them. This shift one corrects that by giving you a direct biological lever to pivot the organism into a different attractor state. Observation becomes creative, not merely descriptive. In practical terms, that means when you return your attention from breath to the task at hand, you carry an energized clarity that shapes outcomes rather than merely notices them, and that is the hidden quantum shift I speak of. Attention integrated with autonomic regulation becomes a generative force. This is not metaphysical wishful thinking. This is applied neurobiology fused with the principles of energy and frequency and validated by the lived evidence of people who adopt it. I have seen leaders reduce impulsive reactivity within days, artists access deeper flow states in the same week, and trauma survivors find a steadier integration of nervous system states over months, because the breath-anchored attention creates a scaffold upon which new habits and new gene expression patterns are built. So right now, before you move on to one concrete action, practice the 4-2-6 cycle for 5 minutes today at a set time, and log your baseline of interrupted focus minutes and emotional reactivity, and then repeat this same practice daily for 14 days. And at day 14, compare your journal notes and optional HRV number and observe the difference. Live the principle fully by making breath and present awareness your default signal for choice rather than reacting to habit. When you sense stress, pause, breathe with intention, and choose one clear action aligned with your intention, and then that is the embodiment. Not just understanding, but doing in the body and in the moment, and repeating until the nervous system adopts the new pattern as normal. This is your invitation and your activation, and I promise from the field of my work that when you commit to this shift one, you will unlock a deeper register of clarity and creative capacity, and you will be repositioning your biology to co-author reality instead of merely receiving it. Take that step now and begin to live as if attention is the technology and breath is the power source, and watch what reorganizes. Shift 2. Build coherence by aligning heart rhythm with brain activity. The observer effect isn't the key, because observing without integration is like shining light on the surface of water, without ever touching its depth. The hidden quantum shift lives in coherence, in the precise moment when the electrical rhythm of your heart synchronizes with the oscillatory patterns of your brain. Shift 2 is where we build coherence by aligning heart rhythm with brain activity. And this is more than poetic language. It is a measurable state that neuroscience and biofield science confirm again and again. The human heart is not just a pump. It is the body's most powerful electrical generator, producing an electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond the skin and influences both your internal systems and your external interaction. When the rhythm of the heart falls into a smooth sine wave pattern known as heart rate variability coherence, the prefrontal cortex receives clearer signals, emotional turbulence settles, and cognitive clarity sharpens. This is why what you feel shapes how you think, and how you think reconditions what you feel, creating a feedback loop that can either fragment or harmonize your entire system. I have witnessed again and again how fragmented rhythms in the heart, triggered by stress, fear, resentment, scramble neural signaling, making it nearly impossible for someone to think clearly, make wise choices, or hold steady focus. In contrast, when a person learns to breathe in rhythm with their heart and generate an intentional emotional state, such as appreciation or compassion, the brain immediately stabilizes, perception widens, and creativity awakens. This is not philosophy, this is physiology. The Institute of Heart Math demonstrated decades ago that coherent heart rhythms lead to increased alpha brainwave activity, the state associated with calm focus and expanded awareness. Alpha is the frequency bridge between conscious thought and subconscious integration, the frequency where you can reprogram habits, shift identity, and access deeper insight. To create this alignment, you must learn how to direct your nervous system rather than let it direct you. The technique is simple but profound. Inhale slowly through the nose for a count of 5, exhale through the nose for a count of 5, and while breathing, place your attention in the area of your heart, as if you were breathing directly into that space. As you do this, deliberately cultivate a regenerative emotion. Choose gratitude, appreciation, or love. The emotional signal is the carrier wave, and it is what drives coherence into embodiment. Without the emotional signal, the breath remains mechanical. With it, the heart begins to emit a coherent pattern that locks into resonance with the brain's electrical oscillations. Within 3 minutes of practice, measurable shifts in heart rate variability occur, and within 10 minutes cortisol begins to drop while DHEA, the vitality hormone, rises. Think of this as tuning an instrument. A piano that is out of tune will never create music that uplifts, no matter how skilled the pianist. Your nervous system is that instrument, and coherence is the tuning process. When the brain receives clean, steady input from the heart, it organizes thought into order, much like waves of light forming a laser when they are coherent. This is what Nikola Tesla pointed to when he said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Nikola Tesla. When your inner frequencies are chaotic, your reality reflects chaos. When they are coherent, life reflects order, harmony, and flow. I want you to understand the depth of this. Coherence is not only for stress reduction or inner peace. Coherence is the biological gateway to manifestation. Why? Because manifestation is not about forcing outcomes. It is about broadcasting a steady, powerful, consistent signal into the quantum field. The heart's electromagnetic field is that broadcast. When your heart and brain are in alignment, the signal is clear and strong, and the field around you begins to organize in resonance with that signal. This is where epigenetics and quantum biology intersect. Your internal state literally changes the information your cells receive and transcribe. Genes switch on or off depending on the coherence or incoherence of your environment, and your inner coherence is the most important environment your cells ever experience. Now let's make this practical. Each morning, before engaging with your day, dedicate 5 minutes to coherent breathing and emotional alignment. Sit upright, close your eyes, place one hand lightly over your heart, and begin a 5-5 rhythm of breath. As you breathe, recall a memory or imagine a scene that generates genuine gratitude. Let yourself feel it in your chest, not in your head. Sustain that emotion, expand it, and let it fill your biofield. Do not analyze it, do not explain it, simply feel. Within minutes you will notice your mind becoming quieter, your body lighter, and your awareness more centered. This is coherence in action. If practiced consistently, it rewires the communication between your vagus nerve, your heart, and your brain, creating a new baseline of regulated calm. But I want you to take it further. Once you establish coherence, speak a single clear intention into the field while maintaining the emotional state. For example, say internally, "I align with clarity and opportunity," or "I embody vitality and love." Because your heart and brain are synchronized, that intention carries electromagnetic weight. You are not whispering a hope into the void, you are transmitting a coded instruction into the quantum field. Over time, as coherence becomes your normal state, you will notice synchronicity is accelerating, opportunities arising, and relationships softening into harmony. The world will appear to bend toward your coherence, because your field is shaping the probabilities you encounter. Neurologically, what is happening is precise. The anterior cingulate cortex begins to mediate between emotion and cognition, balancing logic with empathy. The prefrontal cortex stays online, even under stress, which means you can make conscious decisions rather than fall into unconscious reflexes. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, quiets down, allowing space for creativity and possibility. The hippocampus, critical for memory and learning, becomes more active, helping you encode positive experiences more deeply. This is not vague spirituality. This is the structure of the human nervous system operating at its design potential. The deeper you practice, the more you begin to sense coherence as a vibrational field rather than a mental exercise. You may feel warmth in your chest, a magnetic expansion around your body, or even subtle tingling in your hands. These sensations are signs that your biofield is shifting, that your body is in training to the frequency of coherence. Over weeks and months, coherence reshapes not only your biology but your destiny. You will notice yourself responding differently to challenges, speaking with more authority, and attracting experiences that match your new baseline. This is because coherence doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you are broadcasting. In my years of guiding people into this state, I have seen transformations that could not be explained by logic alone. People stepping out of years of stagnation, dissolving patterns of conflict, healing conditions they thought were permanent, all because they learned to live in coherence. They stopped fragmenting themselves with conflicting signals and started to unify thought, feeling, and physiology into one clear transmission. This is the hidden quantum shift, heart and brain no longer competing, but cooperating as one signal generator. So I ask you now to embody this. Do not wait for the perfect moment, the perfect teacher, or the perfect environment. Begin tonight, begin tomorrow morning, begin now. Practice coherence daily until it becomes as natural as breathing. When stress arises, breathe into your heart and shift the rhythm. When confusion arises, anchor into gratitude and align the wave. When opportunities appear, transmit your intention through the coherence field and watch reality respond. The observer effect is partial truth, but coherence is embodied truth, because only coherence transforms observation into creation. This is your activation. This is your responsibility. This is your gift. Shift 3. Unlock cellular potential by directing thought into embodied action. The observer effect isn't the key. This hidden quantum shift is, and here in Shift 3 we enter the living edge of transformation, where you unlock cellular potential by directing thought into embodied action. What does that mean in practice? It means that thought alone does not change biology, and observation without movement does not rewire life. Your cells are constantly listening, constantly adapting, constantly recalibrating their expression based on the signals they receive. And those signals are shaped not only by what you think, but by what you consistently do with those thoughts in the body. Epigenetics has shown us that gene expression is dynamic, responsive to environment, and deeply sensitive to signals of behavior. When thought becomes embodied through action, you send a direct instruction to your cellular environment that says, "This is the new reality. Sustain this pattern." This is why vision boards without action often fail, and affirmations without embodiment dissolve into background noise. The quantum shift requires translation, from mental possibility into physical demonstration. Your cells are intelligent, they hold memory, they track consistency. If you think health but behave as though your body is fragile, the cells receive a mixed signal and revert to survival programming. If you think abundance but embody scarcity in how you speak, walk, or interact, the cellular field encodes contraction instead of expansion. The hidden power lives in congruence. When thought and action match, when intention and embodiment align, your biology recognizes a new coherent instruction, and potential unlocks. This is not positive thinking. This is structural reprogramming. In neuroscience, Hebb's law says, neurons that fire together wire together. That law becomes a cellular command when paired with movement. If you repeat a thought but never pair it with action, the neural firing remains incomplete, weak, and unstable. But when you combine the thought with a specific physical behavior, the firing stabilizes into a new network that the body begins to adopt as identity. Imagine you set an intention for confidence. Thinking "I am confident" engages a surface-level circuit, but standing upright, breathing steadily, speaking with clarity, and making one small choice that reflects confidence sends that signal into the body's motor cortex, cerebellum, autonomic nervous system, and endocrine field. Confidence then stops being a phrase and becomes a pattern. With repetition, it crystallizes as a trait encoded in cellular memory. This is what I call the law of translation. Thought must translate into action to become real. Action must repeat to become embodied. Embodiment must stabilize to unlock cellular potential. Without translation, the quantum field remains theoretical. With translation, it becomes physiological. The genius of this lies in simplicity. You don't need massive leaps. You need micro-actions repeated with conscious intention. One choice to drink water with presence. One deliberate walk where you embody abundance instead of lack. One conversation where you speak from heart rather than fear. Each micro-action sends a signal to trillions of cells, instructing them to release old proteins, express new genes, and reorganize the biofield. Over time, those signals accumulate, shifting not just mood or thought, but molecular composition. This is why Bruce Lipton has emphasized that environment shapes genetic destiny, and you are the primary architect of your cellular environment. Your thoughts are signals. Your emotions are signals. Your actions are signals. Together they create the biochemical atmosphere in which your genes swim. Change the atmosphere. Change the genetic song. But it is action, the physicalization of thought, that stabilizes the signal so deeply that cells trust it as the new normal. Without action, the signal fades into noise. With action, the signal becomes instruction. Consider how this applies in manifestation. Many people visualize what they want, but remain in behaviors that contradict that vision. They imagine vitality, but move as if fatigued. They imagine love, but embody distrust. The field listens to the body more than the fantasy, and the body speaks most loudly through action. By changing action to align with intention, you bridge the gap between imagination and biology. And this is where the quantum shift becomes visible. Thought without action is potential. Action without thought is mechanical. Thought and action aligned is creation. Let's anchor this with a practice you can begin today. Choose one thought you want to embody, just one. Perhaps it is clarity, vitality, courage, or peace. As soon as you anchor that thought, decide on one small action that demonstrates it in your physical body. If you choose vitality, take a brisk walk with posture upright, eyes open and breath deep. If you choose clarity, write one clear paragraph without distraction. If you choose courage, make one phone call you have been avoiding. As you take that action, bring your full attention to the thought you are embodying. Breathe it, feel it, live it in the micro moment. This action does not need to be grand, it needs to be congruent. Congruence is the signal your cells recognize. Repeat this daily with consistency, and within weeks you will notice cellular responses, increased energy, steadier focus, stronger immunity, deeper intuition. From the perspective of quantum physics, action collapses probability into reality. Thought alone hovers in possibility space. Observation reveals what could be. Action stabilizes what is. When you act, you tell the quantum field, "This is my chosen trajectory," and the wave function narrows into experience. This is the essence of unlocking potential. You shift from rehearsing possibilities to living them. Embodied action also recalibrates the biofield. The electromagnetic field surrounding the body is not static. It is in constant dialogue with your behavior. When you think abundance and walk as if constrained, your field contracts. When you think abundance and walk with openness, shoulders relaxed, eyes lifted, your field expands. Others feel it, opportunities respond to it, and synchronicities align with. This is not mystical exaggeration, but measurable resonance. The field amplifies what is embodied, not what is imagined. The philosopher William James once said, "Action may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action." William James. That wisdom applies at the cellular level. Without action, there is no sustained cellular change. Without cellular change, there is no lasting transformation. The nervous system may taste inspiration, but the body will revert unless action reconditions it. And when the body reconditions, the field stabilizes, and reality reflects that stability. Over years of guiding people through this work, I have seen the profound impact of this shift. A person with chronic anxiety, who embodied calm by practicing slow speech and deliberate gestures, found their biology softening, their heart rhythm stabilizing, their relationships changing. An artist blocked for years began embodying creativity not by waiting for inspiration, but by painting for 10 minutes daily, translating thought into motion, and within weeks unlocked a flood of expression. A leader who imagined influence began embodying presence by standing fully upright in meetings, listening deeply before speaking, and discovered their team began responding with new trust. These are not coincidences, they are consequences of congruent embodiment. So as you hear these words, I invite you not to merely think about this, but to take action immediately. Choose one thought you want to embody today, and pair it with one action you will take before the day ends. Make it small enough to complete, but meaningful enough to signal congruent. Then repeat tomorrow, and the next day, until your cells believe you, because once your cells believe you, the field will too. You unlock cellular potential by teaching the body through action what the mind already knows in concept. The mind sets direction, but the body seals the contract. When thought directs and action confirms, the contract is written into your biology and broadcast into the quantum field. That is when the observer effect is transcended, and the hidden quantum shift emerges in plain view. Leave this principle now. Stop rehearsing in thought alone. Begin transmitting through action. Breathe your thought into your muscles. Speak it into your words. Move it into your gestures. Anchor it into your choices. Then repeat, again and again, until the cellular memory sings the new pattern without effort. This is how you unlock potential. This is how you become the architect of your own evolution. This is the hidden quantum shift, waiting for you in Shift 3, and now it is yours to embody fully. Shift 4. Shift biofield frequency through intentional emotional recalibration. The observer effect isn't the key, because observation by itself can never change the field you are broadcasting. What unlocks the real shift is your biofield, the electromagnetic matrix that surrounds and permeates your body, and the frequency it carries is determined more by your emotional state than by your thoughts alone. Shift 4 is where you step into mastery by shifting biofield frequency through intentional emotional recalibration. And this is not an abstract idea, it is a practical science. Every emotion generates a distinct vibrational signature measurable in your heart rhythm, brain waves, and magnetic field. Fear, anger, and resentment create irregular, chaotic waveforms that weaken cellular communication and reduce coherence across systems. Gratitude, joy, and compassion generate smooth sine wave patterns that strengthen immune function, optimize brain-body communication, and radiate a harmonious field that influences everything around you. Emotions are not just private experiences inside your head. They are energetic broadcasts shaping the reality you interact with. Your nervous system is constantly broadcasting signals through the vagus nerve, through hormonal cascades, through electromagnetic waves emanating from your heart. If you hold a state of worry, your field contracts, narrowing perception and pulling your body into survival mode. If you recalibrate intentionally into appreciation or calm, your field expands, perception widens, and your biology shifts into growth and repair. This is where modern neuroscience and ancient wisdom converge. What we call recalibration is essentially reprogramming the feedback loop between your limbic system and your heart field. By choosing a different emotional signal on purpose, you send a new instruction to your cells and to the quantum field. Many people believe they must wait for circumstances to change before they can feel different. This is the trap of reactivity. In truth, you have the power to generate emotion independently of circumstance, and that is the core of intentional recalibration. You do not wait for peace. You create peace in your nervous system. You do not wait for joy. You generate joy in your chest through memory, imagery, or deliberate focus. The body does not distinguish whether the source of the emotional signal is external or internal. It responds the same way by adjusting hormones, altering brain activity, and reshaping gene expression. This means that every time you recalibrate an emotion, you shift your physiology and your biofield simultaneously. Practically, the way to do this begins with awareness. Notice when your field contracts, when you feel tightness, agitation, or heaviness in your chest. In that moment, pause and breathe deeply into the area of your heart. Place your attention there, slow your breath, and then consciously generate a new emotional tone. If you cannot access gratitude immediately, begin with neutrality or calmness. Once stabilized, expand into appreciation. Hold that frequency long enough for your heart rhythm to entrain into coherence. Within minutes, the shift will ripple through your system, changing brainwave patterns, reducing stress hormones, and creating a measurable expansion of your field. This is intentional emotional recalibration, and it is one of the fastest ways to alter your state of being. I have watched people transform their environments through this practice. A person who carried decades of tension in their family began practicing recalibration before every interaction. Instead of entering the room with defensiveness, they entered with an elevated emotional field. Within weeks, the dynamics began to soften, arguments dissolved more quickly, and communication opened. Nothing external had changed at first, the same family, the same patterns. But their biofield broadcast changed, and eventually the environment responded. This illustrates that your emotions are not contained inside you. They are electromagnetic commands shaping relational and environmental outcomes. On a cellular level, Recalibration triggers cascading effects. Elevated emotional states increase the production of immunoglobulin A, enhancing immune resilience. They balance cortisol, preventing the chronic wear that stress imposes on the body. They increase DHEA, which supports vitality and cellular repair. They even influence telomere length, one of the markers of biological aging. By shifting your frequency, you are not only changing how you feel in the moment, you are changing how your body regenerates over time. Epigenetic research confirms that genes linked to inflammation, stress, and disease are downregulated when the emotional environment is coherent and elevated. In other words, your emotions instruct your biology at the genetic level. From the quantum perspective, the field responds to frequency, not intention alone. You can intend abundance, health, or connection, but if the frequency you are broadcasting through your emotions is frustration or fear, the signal is scrambled. When you recalibrate into appreciation, joy, or love, the field recognizes a clean signal and responds with synchronicities, opportunities, and alignments that match. This is why recalibration is not optional if you wish to consciously create. It is the central mechanism by which thought becomes reality. Albert Einstein once said, "Everything is energy and that's all there is to it." Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. Albert Einstein. That single truth reveals the essence of emotional recalibration. If you want to live in a reality of clarity, abundance, or love, you must generate the frequency of clarity, abundance, or love in your field now. Waiting for it to arrive externally is a reversal of the law. Broadcasting it first is the law in action. The challenge is consistency. Anyone can feel gratitude for a moment, but mastery comes when you can sustain elevated emotion, despite external triggers. This is the work of intentional recalibration, to choose again and again to shift your frequency regardless of circumstance. With practice it becomes easier, because your nervous system learns to stabilize in coherence, and your biofield adopts elevated states as its baseline. The more you practice, the faster you recover from stress, the more magnetic your presence becomes, and the more life reflects coherence back to you. Here is a direct practice you can begin. Several times each day, pause for 90 seconds. In those 90 seconds, place your awareness in your heart, breathe slowly, and recall a moment, image, or thought that evokes appreciation. Let the feeling rise in your chest, and amplify it until it expands through your body. Hold it as long as you can. Then carry that frequency into the next activity. Repeat this consistently, and notice how your state, your interactions, and even your external opportunities begin to shift. The 90-second practice is short enough to fit anywhere and powerful enough to recalibrate your field. When you become skilled at this, you begin to sense the biofield directly. You will feel the expansion around your body, a subtle warmth, a magnetic pull. You will notice that people respond differently to you, that conversations open more smoothly, that challenges feel less daunting. These are signs that your field is broadcasting a new frequency. Over weeks and months, this becomes your signature, your living resonance. At that point, the observer effect is no longer relevant, because you are not simply watching particles collapse into form. You are guiding the collapse with the frequency you sustain. This is the hidden quantum shift, to realize that your emotional state is not a side effect, but a generator of reality. By recalibrating intentionally, you stop being a reactor, and start being a transmitter. You stop waiting for life to make you feel a certain way, and begin teaching life how to organize around your frequency. Your biology transforms, your field expands, and your world aligns. That is the work, the science, and the power of shift. Now is the time to practice it, not tomorrow, not someday. Begin with a single recalibration today. Generate one elevated emotion on purpose. Hold it, broadcast it, and watch what begins to change. Shift 5. Integrate quantum stability by repeating aligned patterns daily. The observer effect isn't the key, because witnessing reality without stabilization leads to fleeting insights that dissolve as quickly as they appear. What truly matters is not what you see but what you can sustain. And that is why Shift 5 is about integrating quantum stability by repeating aligned patterns daily. Consistency is the bridge between possibility and permanence. You can generate coherence once. You can recalibrate emotion once. You can embody a thought in action once. But the nervous system, the cells, and the field only register a new reality when it is repeated enough times to overwrite the old programming. This is the law of neuroplasticity and the law of energy entrainment. What you do consistently creates the dominant pattern, and the dominant pattern becomes your baseline state. A single spark is beautiful, but without continuity it fades. Stability comes when sparks are repeated until they ignite into a self-sustaining flame. Your biology is designed to adapt to repetition. Every time you repeat a thought, it strengthens a neural circuit. Every time you embody a choice, it conditions a motor pattern. Every time you generate a coherent emotion, it builds cellular memory and recalibrates the electromagnetic field. Repetition is the mechanism by which the body learns to trust the signal. Without repetition, the body dismisses new signals as temporary. With repetition, the body accepts the signal as truth and reorganizes accordingly. This is why rituals, habits, and daily practices are not just lifestyle recommendations. They are quantum technologies for stabilization. In neuroscience, it is established that synaptic pathways grow stronger with repetition and weaker with neglect. This means your brain is not static. It is sculpted daily by the patterns you reinforce. If you meditate once, you experience clarity in that moment. If you meditate every morning for weeks, your default state becomes clarity. If you breathe coherently once, you reset your nervous system temporarily. If you breathe coherently twice a day, your baseline shifts toward calm resilience. The same applies to emotional recalibration, intentional action, and coherent focus. The repetition carves grooves in both mind and body until the new pattern becomes effortless. On the cellular level, daily repetition creates lasting shifts in gene expression. Epigenetic studies show that consistent practices such as mindfulness, gratitude, and breath regulation upregulate genes for growth, repair, and resilience, while downregulating genes for inflammation and stress. This is not about doing something extraordinary once. It is about encoding a new internal environment through consistent practice. Cells respond to environment, and your repeated patterns are the environment they experience most. By stabilizing aligned patterns, you create a biochemical and energetic climate that sustains transformation. The quantum field also responds to repetition. A single broadcast of intention may send ripples into possibility, but repeated broadcasts create resonance. Resonance attracts coherence from the field, aligning circumstances and opportunities with the frequency you are sustaining. This is why daily repetition is the key to manifestation, not because the universe needs convincing, but because your field must hold a signal long enough for probability to crystallize into form. Each repetition strengthens the amplitude of your broadcast, and eventually the field organizes around it. Practical integration begins with choosing a small set of aligned patterns and practicing them daily without negotiation. For example, a 5-minute coherent breathing session each morning, one intentional action aligned with your vision each afternoon, and one emotional recalibration each evening. The exact practices matter less than the repetition itself. When you anchor these consistently, you train your nervous system, your cells, and your field to recognize stability. Over time, the practices become your identity, not just something you do. Albert Einstein once remarked, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Albert Einstein. The brilliance of this insight is that stability is never achieved by accident. It is cultivated through repetition. Excellence in thought, in emotion, in presence, and in energy is the product of what you practice daily. You do not become coherent once and remain that way forever. You sustain coherence by integrating it into your routine until it becomes your natural state. I have seen this principle transform lives. A client struggling with chronic stress committed to 10 minutes of daily emotional recalibration. At first, the shifts were small, noticeable only during practice, but after weeks, their entire demeanor shifted. Stressful situations that once triggered panic now evoked calm, and their colleagues noticed a change in their presence. Another individual repeated a daily embodiment of abundance by walking with open posture and speaking with generosity. Over months, their field shifted, opportunities increased, and financial flow expanded. The transformation was not a single breakthrough, but the accumulation of repeated aligned patterns. The power of repetition also lies in recovery. Life will test you, challenges will arise, and old patterns may resurface. But if you have established daily aligned practices, your system knows how to return quickly to stability. This is the essence of resilience, not avoiding turbulence, but having the repetition to recover equilibrium faster each time. Without repetition, challenges throw you off course. With repetition, challenges become temporary waves that cannot destabilize your foundation. To integrate quantum stability, begin by designing your day as a sequence of anchors. Wake with a breath practice to regulate your field. Choose one action that embodies your intention during the day. Close with an emotional recalibration that elevates your state before repeat this daily until it becomes automatic. As weeks pass, your baseline shifts. As months pass, your identity stabilizes. As years pass, your destiny reshapes. The observer effect gives you awareness, but repetition gives you embodiment. Awareness without repetition dissolves. Repetition without awareness is mechanical. Awareness combined with repeated aligned patterns creates stability. That stability is the hidden shift that unlocks a life not only of peak moments, but of sustained transformation. So I call you to embody this now. Choose your pattern, commit to them daily. Protect them as sacred non-negotiables. Repeat them until they shape your nervous system, your cells, and your field into a coherent instrument of creation. Integrate stability, because without it, the quantum field reflects inconsistency. With it, the field mirrors your sustained frequency back into form. This is your work, your activation, your invitation. Begin today, repeat tomorrow, and continue until stability becomes your signature vibration. This is Shift 5, and when you live it, you no longer chase transformation, you embody it, stabilize it, and radiate it as who you are.